So Garrison Price for Friday, April 17th, 2026. We're a presentation of Bet365. Check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout when your team goes up 3. You get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price. Mike Rogerson hitting switches, conducting things. Coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the Historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Well, seminal day for the Vancouver Canucks who make a managerial change and chart the course forward in the form of another banger press conference from Jim Rutherford that is not short on honesty, including honesty about his own failures and his own future. We will get into it over the next hour or so. Jeff Patterson will join us live from Rogers Arena, our Vancouver Canucks reporter, and, of course, the host of Rink Wide Vancouver after this season from hell for the Vancouver Canucks concludes with a loss last night in Edmonton, a lopsided loss last night in Edmonton that gets them to the very unattractive -100 goal differential.
It also means they climb down to 31st in offense. They lost that 30th placing in offense, Matt, with only the single goal.
And the season also ends with a search for the 13th general manager in Vancouver Canucks history after the firing of Parik Allvin earlier this morning, or I guess yesterday, as Rutherford laid it out step by step for us. Okay, well, let's start with what we just heard from the Canucks president of hockey operations. He took to the podium solo. He started out by thanking the fans and acknowledging their continued support for what was a terrible team this year. He talked about the firing of Parik Allvin, saying it was unfortunate, but it was time for somebody else to have the opportunity to sit in that chair. And we say firing, but I guess that would not be the technical HR term, Blake, because he went on to explain to us that Parik Allvin has been offered a position in the organization in scouting and player development, things that Rutherford name-checked as strengths of Allvin, and said he would give Patrick time to make that decision, that things are quite emotional now.
Which, credit to the reporters that were on this early, because that was tipped off, I don't know, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that was a possibility, and clearly Rutherford's feelings on that, or allowing that possibility, had been leaked out. I find it hard to believe he accepts that deal, Parik Allvin, for a number of reasons, most of which you just want to make a clean break, and I think he probably feels like he can make a move, not laterally, because he's not going to be a GM anywhere else, but he probably feels he can be higher up somewhere else, most notably Minnesota.
Well, that said, if it's at the GM salary, and as J-Pat told us earlier this week, his wife's got a very good job here. As we know, Vancouver's a hard place to see in the rearview mirror, so we'll see where that goes. But needless to say, Parik Allvin will not be making decisions going forward. In fact, Jim Rutherford says he wants the GM to make all of the hockey decisions going forward.
It's a huge statement, Matt. Him saying that is on the front page.
Well, Blake, he basically said he is hiring the guy who's going to succeed him perhaps as soon as after the draft.
The question is, the fact that he says that, front page news. Do you believe it?
Yeah, and he mentioned Ryan Johnson by name, the assistant general manager, and, of course, the GM of the Abbotsford Canucks, who won the Calder Cup trophy last year, said we have a good internal candidate, but he doesn't want to limit the search to just internal, and that a full search process begins on Monday. Now, as for the elephant in the room, Adam Foote, what belies his future? He said Adam Foote's future will be decided upon by the new general manager, and the new general manager will have a lot of responsibility to make all the decisions.
Adam, you need a drink?
Yeah.
Like, what does that do for the coach who just has to sit and stew on that decision? And when's it coming? He doesn't know when the GM's going to be, my goodness.
He said he wanted to be respectful of Foote. He said the new GM may like him, and he talked about how this was the hardest hand he had seen a coach dealt in all of his years in the National Hockey League. Getting back to the do you believe him, and will he have full autonomy, the next GM? Mike, do we have that first clip ready? Because he gets asked, it seems like Parik Allvin got fired for decisions that weren't always his. And Rutherford did not dispute that. Do we have that ready, Mike?
Yeah, I think
let's play that.
I think that's a fair comment. In my position, I do have to make some decisions. But he was in charge of most of the things in hockey, making the trades and deciding who's getting called up and down and working with the coach and all those things. So I take full responsibility for the season. I head up the hockey department, but I don't make decisions for other people. And Patrick had the opportunity to make his own decisions.
Yeah, and look, we were always of the mind that Jim Rutherford made the big decisions, things like JT Miller trades, Marcus Pettersson trades, Quinn Hughes trades. He wasn't making the itty-bitty decisions on, Carson Soucy for a mid-round pick. He wasn't making the decisions on which player we should call up from Abbotsford. Now, he made it sound like Patrick had more authority than that. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, you see that? Like, the Marcus Pettersson trade sticks out like a sore thumb there. Like,
well, but that was a player that Jim Rutherford personally vouched for, so that's why
so
I
did
say
Allvin, though. Allvin had him too, right? So, I mean,
okay.
I just think it's muddled, and it's clarity is not the result of this press conference.
Well, other than his statement that he wants the new GM to make all of the hockey decisions. I mean, he effectively said that this guy is going to replace me, and again, as soon as the draft. Do we have J-Pat ready there, Mike? Let's get to Jeff Patterson, our Canucks reporter, the host of Rinkwide Vancouver, who took in the proceedings at Rogers Arena and now joins us from there live. Jeff, big takeaways from what you heard from Mr. Rutherford.
Well, he never disappoints when he gets to a microphone. Again, just a ton to digest here. The fact that as soon as after the draft, he may be prepared to step away. I think that is maybe my overarching takeaway. But beyond that, yet another admission, like as if the expose that Gary Mason wrote about the JT Miller and Elias Pettersson tiff and going into great detail then about locker room dynamics and then revisiting it again here today, more than a year removed from that article and more than a year removed from JT Miller being peddled and still calling it just terrible, the situation in the locker room. Now, the follow-up question, I think, probably should have been, why? Like, why has this management group and coaching staff not been able to get to the bottom of all this and finally clear the air? But that part of it wasn't addressed. But anyways, that I thought was a wild admission yet again. The fact that he copped to signing the three veterans on July the 1st as a hope bet, and that's exactly what it was. And so many people have said there was no need to rush into an extension for Thatcher Demko, nor was there a need to sign Connor Garland at that point. And this was an admission that they knew already that Quinn had more than a foot out the door, and yet this was a Hail Mary. There's just, you can't do business in professional sports with that mindset that you are just throwing massive dollars and big term at players with the hope that somehow that's going to be enough to keep your star here, even knowing what they already knew. So, those are a few of the things that absolutely jumped out at me.
Let's talk about. Let's play the clip on culture, Jeff. You're quite right. I mean, Jim Rutherford has uttered a lot of sentences, phrases, paragraphs in his 4 years here that you almost never hear a president of a sports organization
Well, never mind
say aloud
repeated
and
so
publicly.
often.
But Jeff is absolutely right. He went even further on how toxic the culture was in the Canucks room prior to the last 5 weeks. Here's Rutherford.
I'm probably not going to answer your question because I'll end up pointing fingers at people, and I don't like to do that. But it was really bad. And since the trade deadline, and since the young character energy players have come in here and stepped up, okay, to bring that energy in the room, the chemistry and the culture in the Canucks dressing room over the last 5 weeks is the best it's been since I've been here. And you say you don't know where that's going to go. I don't know where it's going to go either. But if that didn't get cleaned up, I can guarantee it wasn't going anywhere. Now with that team chemistry, this team has a chance to move forward and let every player enjoy coming to the rink and not have to worry about somebody barking at them in practice or picking on them in the room or whatnot. This group is tightly knit. Good veterans left here, good mentors, very good young character players, got a number of good young players coming. So this team's going in the right direction. How long that takes, I don't know. I would only be guessing.
Jeff, the JT Elias dynamic is one thing. I don't think this covers Quinn Hughes or Connor Garland in very much glory as well.
No. Guys barking at each other on the ice, I have no issues with that. In the year 2026, in the best hockey league in the world, we're talking about guys picking on other guys in the locker room. Again, who are the adults in there? Like, where are the adults to step in and just finally put an end to all
hockey
of this?
culture,
And
Jeff. Hockey culture. Old school hockey culture. We got to pick on the young guys. Like, I've heard stories that they pick on young guys about what kind of underwear they wear and like really small, meaningless shit like that just to show I'm a vet. I've got more standing in this room than you. That's the sort of thing that permeates this sport. And as needless to say, according to Rutherford, has permeated this Canucks room for the last couple of years.
And you're right. I mean, you just do some simple math here of who were the deductions. I don't think David Kampf was causing massive issues in that locker room. And we all played up Tyler Myers in his role as a mentor and a veteran and a leader and a good guy and all those types of things. So, yeah, I mean, you're left no choice but to look at the other guys that shall remain unnamed, I suppose. But like to hear the players and look, we saw it here over the final, 3 weeks of the season. Like, you know, they were literally fighting for each other and the games didn't mean anything. But I pointed out as there were the two fights in the final game of the season in Edmonton last night that since that Tyson Cole Fight Club video came out, the Vancouver Canucks have had more fights than they had to that point in the season. And it does feel like they've got each other's backs. And not just on the ice. I mean, how many guys today talked about group texts and going out for dinners and all those types of things that I think we just assume happen. But clearly this dysfunctional group, that was not. There were factions, whatever the case. Like, just get your shit together as an organization.
Oh my goodness.
This has to be rock bottom. Like, it better be rock bottom on some of those fronts. And, you hear Jim Rutherford talk about that, he believes that, yes, they have sort of, leapt over that final hurdle and now they're on the build back. I guess the proof will come next season and beyond. We shall see. But it's just wild that the president of hockey operations, again, has to admit that complete and utter dysfunction in that locker room. So you can sort of understand why we saw what we saw for the better part of the last 6 months.
You wonder what Elias Pettersson's thinking. You assume that he catches wind of that clip, and he knows that he's been brought up a lot. Like, is Elias Pettersson okay being sort of? He's been. I don't think anyone thinks he's necessarily the catalyst of being the meanness. Certainly not. But does he want this toxicity always brought up? Because we know he's a center of it.
Yeah, it is hard to get inside the mind of Elias Pettersson. And, I didn't think he did himself any favor at the podium. And I get that it's media exit day, and I don't want to go too deep here, but I would have liked to have heard more of a full-throated endorsement of how much he wants to be here and be a part of turning this thing around. And yet, it was, again, fairly lackadaisical
Lukewarm.
performance. Yeah. So I would like to have heard a little bit more of him lean in and say, like, enough is enough here. I know my role in all of this. I've got to be better. I have to be a part of the solution here. And I didn't.
He doesn't speak authentically, Jeff. He doesn't speak authentically on that question. He takes umbrage with the question rather than giving you any kind of full, honest, and expansive answer. Like, he's perturbed with the whole notion that he may want out of Vancouver. You mentioned
Farhan couldn't have pedaled it any better.
Soft pedal, no, exactly.
Yeah.
And he was very respectful, especially with the news we learned this week.
There was empathy, all that kind of stuff, and I would have liked a little bit in return because, again, he knows what he makes. We all know what he makes, and you are, whether you like it or not, you're tied to your salary at this level. Expectations come with that sort of paycheck, and sort of this. I'll go home, I'll work on whatever I've worked on the last bunch of years, and we'll see if it's better.
Well, let me stop you right there, Jeff, because we're going to play the Rutherford clip. You can basically take the statement from last year and fast forward to this year. It's the same fucking statement about Pettersson. Let's hear from Rutherford on Petey's future and what needs to happen from this point forward.
I'm probably not going to answer your question because I'll end up pointing fingers.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's not the one. Mike will get it straight here. But he full on says.
I got it.
Okay. Preparation. Here you go.
Yeah, he's been disappointing, obviously. I think there's a lot of good things he did. He tried to become a two-way player, and he's tried to do the things that it ultimately takes to win as a team, but his production is down so much, it's difficult, right? I believe that if he puts the work in the summer, it's the same as anything people do in life. Preparation is the key to success. And I don't believe he's put enough preparation in at this point to be the player he needs to be. But he's young enough, he's capable of doing it. And if he does the things he's told to do, he has a chance to succeed here. But if he doesn't, the GM is going to have to make a decision. But you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You're damned if you trade the guy because he could go and take off again. And then, or you could decide, no, he's going to do it here, and he doesn't. So it's a very tough decision. But I do feel confident that Petey has the ability that he can bounce back. And he doesn't have to be a guy who gets 110 points. Even just a point a game will be enough as this team grows and becomes a better team. It'll be enough for this team to be successful. But he's got to get to that, and he's got to work at it.
Yeah, so 12 months later, and not a single ounce of progress on the Petey file, and he's even lowered the bar for him, right? And said, as we've all been saying, let's just be a 70, 80-point guy who plays stout defense, Jeff.
Yeah, and this comes on a season where he finished with 51. That's a long bridge to cross to get from 51 to 82 or 84 as they go for a point a game. Also, this player, the highest paid player on the team, finished with goals in one of his final 36 hockey games. And again, that just seems to get swept under the rug, that that is magically going to change next year. So, yeah, you're right. A lot of sameness to the things that the manager or the president is saying about this star player. The other part is, he says he's young enough. He's going to be 28 in the fall. This is not a young player anymore. We can't treat him as such. And in fact, I think every year that goes by, it's going to be that much more difficult for him to return to anything close to, a star player, difference maker, game breaker. And it's going to be a while before that next wave, takes over the ownership of this team in the locker room, on the ice, become the frontline guys. So as long as he's here, he's still going to be looked at as one of their better offensive players, but 50-point season's not going to do it. And again, just in his body language today at the podium, and I try not to make too much of things that are uttered on locker cleanout day. But I wanted, like, I wish, and I know, Matt, like I didn't come to the rink thinking that I was going to hear something different from him, but I wished I would hear him, bang the desk and say, like,
The whole
I'm a
market's
big
waiting for that,
problem
Jeff.
here.
The whole
I'm
market.
gonna, I can be a part of the solution, but we don't see it on the ice, and we don't hear it from him on the occasions that he's in front of microphones and cameras.
like
he's
the
conveniently
market-
forgetting too, guys, that Elias Pettersson has a no trade clause. He says if you
No,
trade
no
him, he
move.
might get better. He can't just unilaterally make
That's
the
right.
decision. The GM, I think we're going to cut bait and trade the player. It's not that simple.
Mike, do we have the Pettersson clip? It seems appropriate now. Like, let's fire just so everybody who's joining us can understand what we're talking about. We've referenced it a couple of times. If you missed this, so Farhan Lalji asked a couple of questions of Elias Pettersson off the top of the first player availability, and he was in the first group with Thatcher Demko and with Brock Besser. And the first question to Elias was about the second miscarriage that he and his wife, Caitlin, announced this week, and it was filled with empathy. And Elias said, "Thank you very much for that." And he got emotional. We'll play the clip a little bit later. He got a little bit emotional. It sounded in his voice about how difficult it was to play this year with what has gone on in his family and the two miscarriages. And then Farhan pivoted and asked him a question about whether this year and everything that's gone on has him wondering about whether a change makes sense. I'm not sure if we have the question in here, Mike, but here's what Elias had to say.
Thank you for that. It's been hard. There's a lot of things with. Oh God. No, it's just been it's hard with see how it affected both of us, obviously, but mostly for Caitlin, that's been the hardest.
Okay, so that was the first question with regards to what they revealed this week. Mike, we have the second clip of Petey when he gets asked about whether or not he would be open to a change.
Yes, we're ready to go.
Okay.
No, I mean, I like it here. This feels like home. Signed here for a reason. We are in a tough spot. None of us are happy with the season, but like Thatcher and Demmer said, Thatcher and Brock said, we got good pieces here, so just trying to build it up and try to build a good team.
Yeah.
the words are there. The words are there.
The words
but,
are there.
But my goodness.
It's like he's reading bullet points. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of futures, Jeff, we've talked about this already, but Jim Rutherford exceedingly candid about his own future and committing to nothing beyond the draft. He begins this answer with some trademark humor. He played that card before. He's played it a few times today as well. Here's Rutherford on his future.
I'm going to go to Canadian Tire and get a hammer and help build the practice rink. I am, when I came here, I've been here 4 full seasons now. And when I made the commitment to come here, it was, I believe I told Francesco 2 years, I'll come here and see if I can help. And I've been here 4 years. I got to tell you, like anybody else thinking about this team this year, I had a lot of thoughts about my future. But right now, my focus is on getting a GM and getting through the draft. And when I do that, then I will think a lot more serious about what makes sense.
Does that mean exiting, or does that mean I'm going to think about how many more years I want to do? Because I think you can hear it that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, there were other answers that I took that to mean that once the draft is through, that he is considering exiting stage left. But then he also talked about being there to answer questions for anybody in the organization that looked to him for leadership and advice. He talked about the fact that the next general manager is going to have full autonomy, which as long as he's here, I guess I need to see before I fully believe that. But I mean, this sounded like a man at this stage of his career. And look, the credentials are there. He's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He doesn't need this anymore. But I don't think he wants to go out. And he addressed that as well, that he doesn't want this to be his last act in a game that has given him a ton, and he's given a ton too throughout his career. And it's really all he's known. And so I do think that he wants to at least be able to, have the vision of brighter days for the Vancouver Canucks. And right here, right now, they're at the lowest of the ebbs. And so there is still some work to be done. So I think it was him basically greasing the skids to start to step back, and ultimately, at some point, and maybe it's sooner rather than later, we're going to see his departure.
He was asked how bad it can get going forward, or if it can continue to be so bad, and he did not want it to be so bad again next year. And I'm not talking about the locker room; I'm talking about the win column. He wants to be better next year, Jeff. And not in the same way that Jake DeBrusk couched it, where we need to be at least 31st or 30th. He was really, he was being modest in what his expectations were. I think Jim Rutherford's looking at this and saying, "Hey, we did it. We finished last. We gave ourselves the best chance. We're going to get a top 3 player that he says he expects to be ready to play next season. Braden Coots he expects to be ready to play next season." And I think he's looking at Philip Hedl and Thatcher Demko as hope bets that could turn out. And I think he wants to return to the mushy middle. He's not going to say playoffs.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but
I think he does.
Let's play the clip, and then Jeff will come back and discuss.
I'm not. Obviously, the new GM will make some changes. I would suspect there will be at least 3 new first-year guys in. We count Lekamecki as a first-year guy. Coots. And whoever we pick at the top of the first round, we hope that player's ready to play. I would think that if the GM would add a couple of veteran players, hopefully good character and mentors like the guys we still have here, and if you blend those in together, you get healthy, Demko's back to where he was, then this team should take a big step forward. I don't want to stand here and say it jumps all the way into the playoffs, but I do believe we have a very exciting team, and a team that people are going to have fun watching and watch grow.
So you scoffed at him, Matt. He's literally laying it out there. He wants to return to missing the playoffs.
But Blake, later in the press conference, he talks about commit to the rebuild and no shortcuts. There's 2 ways to interpret it, Jeff. You've heard the 2 in the fro here. How did you interpret it?
Yeah, and that was my question to him. And basically it was, do you see any way that this team can be appreciably better next season? Or are you, as a steward of this group, bracing yourself for at least 1 more year of pain? And that's where he said no. And I guess it surprised me. I thought he might have taken the other approach of, keep expectations modest at this point, and recognize that, a team like Anaheim is back in the playoffs after a 7-year absence. And I think this is a part that the fan base is worried about, that you hear answers like that, and if you signal rebuild and you run the white flag up, then do it and take your lumps. And if it takes a bunch of years, so be it. But then you add a couple of veterans, so you plug in, your first round pick last year and the guy that you get, and boom, expecting, great strides for this hockey club. First of all, and I think we've talked about this before, and I am fascinated to see on July 1st, will free agents want any part of this? They are dead last. They are dead last with all sorts of uncertainty.
No practice facility, right? Like
none of the bells and whistles.
None of the tools that you have in other places to improve yourself, get better, get healthier.
Maybe you get the first overall pick and somebody thinks, hey, that'd be kind of cool. I'll come in and I'll play with Gavin McKenna or whoever it is. But it's not like you can offer them, we got this, 1, 2, 3 punch down the middle. If you're a winger, like look at the wingers this year, and obviously a result of the lack of depth that they had at center ice position. So they don't have a ton to offer. And as the cap goes up, other teams are going to have money to spend. It's not about just putting a gob of money in front of players. So I am, and we saw the agent poll last week as well. The agents don't love dealing with the Vancouver Canucks. I really am curious. So to hear Jim Rutherford stand there and suggest that add a couple of veteran players, I think they're going to try. But I also think that those veteran unrestricted free agents are going to have options, and I don't know that they're going to be enticed to come and play for the Vancouver Canucks.
Here's where I'm coming from, gentlemen. That's gets me to a different conclusion than the two of you, and I completely understand when you hear a couple of veteran players how that alarm bells for those who think they're not going to commit to the rebuild. And Jeff makes a very good point. Can you even land those veterans or veterans that move the needle in any way, shape, or form? And there's a school of thought they're going to be terrible regardless of who they sign on the UFA market. A very weak UFA crop, even if they are hunting the biggest game guys like Alex Tuck. He began his press conference thanking the fans, basically begging them to come back, talking about how impressed he was that they stayed with the club despite how terrible this year was. He came around and ended the press conference with that as well. His owner is trying to get season ticket renewals right now. He cannot today come out and say, oh yeah, we're going to be horrible again next year. You have to sell hope to some degree. The other thing, the other problem he's got is that when he and his compadre Michael Doyle on the business side both go to report to Francesco Aquilini at the end of the season, Michael Doyle can sit there and go, Frank, we were top 5, top 7 in the league in attendance, 18,000 paid every single night. Frank's going to go, that's pretty good. Jim, how about your side? We were 32nd by a mile. So he does have to throw some bones to the commercial considerations of next season in this press conference here and now.
The fallout from this year won't be felt until next year, right? Like he can go and look at the seats, and we remarked that, yeah, it was wild that people still showed up and wanted a piece of the Vancouver Canucks, but now the rubber hits the road.
They're trying to minimize the fallout, Jeff, I guess.
Fair enough. I understand that part of it, but I expected his answer to be a little more cautious. To my question that he was going to slow the roll a little bit in terms of expectations, because now, as he's laid it out, like, what if Braden Coots doesn't have the same sort of training camp that he had last year for the Vancouver Canucks? Is he going to be gifted a spot in this lineup because the president said so on April the 18th? Or, we don't know who they're going to land in the first round, but and Lekkerimäki is still a question mark. And
coming off a surgery,
I had a chat with him the other day at a card signing. He's in good spirits. He's back in the gym 7 weeks after shoulder surgery, but it's shoulder surgery that shut down his, and he still hasn't. Fleshed out a game enough to be a full-time National Hockey Leaguer. So there's a ton of work to be done, and he's going into this offseason, an important offseason, and isn't fully healthy to get the training that he's going to need ultimately to hit the ground running. So that's where I would have cautioned Jim Rutherford against making sort of, I don't know if promises is the word, but to name check those guys certainly sounds, now again, the general manager is going to have the full say. So this was just a president at a podium today. The new guy is going to be the one calling the shots, we think. Just a couple other things that jumped out at me from this day. And there was a lot to process, obviously, with the players. And it's such a flawed process. I would have loved half an hour with Thatcher Demko. I was reminded again how fascinating Thatcher Demko can be when he is in the mood to talk and to bring us into his world.
Yes.
And to put him up at the podium with Besser and Pettersson and Filip Hronek, I would have loved half an hour with Thatcher Demko on his own. Unfortunately, that's not the format that they choose to use. But
Jeff, he's one of the most intelligent and articulate hockey players in Vancouver Canucks.
And yet he puts up massive walls so much that we can't get in there. And then he was ready to talk today.
And then once every blue moon, he decides to come on out and bare his soul and show all vulnerabilities. It is the oddest juxtaposition with that guy.
Can't figure him out.
And his personality, because we've heard stories that he absolutely hates, loathes media, and says as much in private quarters, and yet then he comes out and and hey, there's a saying in the business, tally light guy. I mean, he may very well just be a tally light guy that he knows when that tally light's on, it's time to turn on the charm.
This topic of conversation, guys, does dovetail a little bit into the Jim Rutherford one. Like, there is the narrowest of paths, but it's a non-zero chance that Filip Chytil and Thatcher Demko are both healthy next season. Those are two pretty significant pieces of it. If Filip Chytil's a center that scores you 20 goals and gets you 40 points, and Thatcher Demko win, again, people are scoffing and belly laughing right now when I make that. It's a non-zero chance, though. It's not an odds-on chance, but you can't throw away the possibility that these two players are human beings that are doing everything in their power to keep their NHL careers where they were at. That's their goal. Like, they're in a seat of, I am determined. You can't throw that away. And those are two significant players in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, Filipino's got 1 year left on a contract, and the people that think he should retire, I mean, he's got $4+ million in $4+ million reasons to come back and give it a shot. And he said as much today that he's fully expecting to arrive at training camp ready to battle yet again. We generally know how this works, but you're right that maybe next season, maybe, is the year that he does if ever a guy deserved some good breaks, had all the bad ones this time around, including the puck in the face at practice. So we'll see what happens there. To Demko, if I had a second follow-up question, I would have loved to have been able to ask him, does he ever consider at 30 going on 31 now that less might be more, that, put an internal pitch count, like stop yourself at 40 games and just, build your schedule around 40 starts and, see how that works for you. But I think he still can, he talked about how good he feels. I think he sees himself coming back as the de facto number one guy that's going to have the starter's role. And we just know that generally doesn't work for him. I don't know if he misspoke, guys, but did you pick up when Brock Besser said that one of the issues was guys were being asked to play positions they didn't want to play?
Yeah, Blake
in the National Hockey League.
But I dismissed it, Jeff, because we all know Drew O'Connor and Lucas Reichel aren't centers, and they tried to play those guys at centers. Did you?
But that was for 4 days. It
was for like 2 weeks. Did anybody interpret that it was beyond those two guys?
I didn't know what he
instances?
meant.
Yeah, I think Besser himself was forced to play left wing he's never been anything but played on line with Connor Garland, two right shot guys. You're having, wingers. Now, wingers move around. I get that, but I just think it speaks to the dysfunction. And there was enough of it. Like, how about Derek Forbort detailing all of his travails this year? Derek Forbort went from a maintenance day to hip surgery that shut him down, and the organization didn't feel the need to update, to, make any sort of peep. And again,
this brings the medical treatment back into question, Jeff. And I saw Dollywall saying they're going to take a look at all of that. But no, you're telling me Brock is so precious he can't play left wing? Come on. Please. This is the National Hockey League. Okay, you played right shot your whole career.
But I'm not saying it was Brock. DeBrusk ended up playing on the right. It was just there were a lot of guys that were being playing out of position, out of their natural positions, some of it by necessity. But you're right. It was just a curious turn of phrase, maybe more than anything, but it caught my attention. The fact that Evander Kane didn't feel the need to show up today.
Oh, boy.
Club got him his 1,000th game. And
do we know that that's the case? Was that dealer's choice?
I almost tweeted about this. I leave open the possibility that Evander Kane had a medical appointment here with what's ailing him that had to be today or what have you, or a family matter or something like that. But from the moment he stepped foot here, there was not a single iota of, you know what? I should really put my best foot forward because I'm playing for my next NHL contract. It's almost like he doesn't want his next NHL contract, or he thinks it's coming, regardless of what happened this season.
Well, I think it was reciprocal, though, guys. Didn't you get the feeling, too, Jeff, that the Canucks never really they were forced to because of his 1,000th game, but they weren't exactly putting him as an organization on a pedestal either of, we got this homecoming guy, the Vancouver boy is back, here comes it. It was very sort of
it was complicated.
Let's just see how this goes with this guy.
Yep.
Yeah, the marketing department certainly didn't latch on, but boy, I remember when he was getting 20 minutes and most of them at 5-on-5 early in the
coach
season.
Liked him.
And then clearly, and whether it was a written agreement or just an understanding that they were going to do everything in their power to get him his 1,000th game in the National Hockey League, because clearly he was playing through something. Adam Foote talked about that, and the minute he got to 1,000 and then the 1,001st game with the Silver Stick, that was the last we saw of him truly, because he didn't play again, and then it was a no-show here at locker cleanout and media exit day. So just the little things, but again, in a finely tuned professional organization, top to bottom, buttoned down, Derek Forbort doesn't just disappear for a season without some sort of announcement. Even if you think, hey, Derek Forbort's not a big piece of this pie, just use your Twitter account, the PR Twitter. Derek Forbort's had hip surgery, whatever. It's not hard. but they make it hard. And as we've said, like they do all the easy things hard. So
Own goals.
I'm not surprised.
Own goals.
Yeah.
Jeff, you've had a full day and full night last night. We thank you for that. We'll have you back Monday. There'll be more to unpack.
There'll be more.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always more.
Absolutely.
Well, Adam Foote is expected to
on Monday
hold court here on Monday morning. So we shall see if he makes it through the weekend. Then we'll be back here at the rink on Monday.
Yeah, the embattled coach on Monday, whose future will be determined by the next general manager.
How awkward is that, guys?
Well,
honestly,
but
it's one thing for us to infer.
I think
they're on board as saying, yeah, the other guy will make the decision.
Well, but that's typically what happens with GMs is you give them the opportunity. I mean, Trevor came in and they gave him the authority to do you want to keep Torts or not? Honestly, to use your favorite new word, Blake, I think there's a non-zero chance that Adam Foote remains as the Vancouver Canucks head coach, but I would be absolutely gobsmacked if the new GM kept Adam Foote as head coach after taking a look at what happened this year. Jeff, thank you for this. Have a great weekend. First off weekend for Jeff in some time. Oh, my God. You're moving quick on Jeff.
Jeff out of there.
Oh, my gosh.
Giving the guy a break.
That's Jeff Pettersson.
Bye, Jeff. Thank you.
Holy cow.
Sorry, Jeff.
Rogerson with the quick hook today.
No kidding.
He's going out to get the starting pitcher in the second inning.
It's like the Oscars. The music.
Jeff had 7 good more minutes for us, Mike.
Yeah, I studied under Bob Rock, so that's how we do things.
But
dropping a rock and roll Hall of Famer there.
So if Adam Foote was, one of Jack Adams 5 years ago, and
exactly,
and you owed it to him to see if the new GM wanted, I get it. But come on,
Blake,
peel off the Band-Aid.
Blake. Whereas when he hired him, I think that was Jim Rutherford giving Adam Foote a gift. By the end of the year, I think Jim recognized I just didn't give him a gift. Like I gave him like a stink bomb. Like I gave him a lump of coal. I'm going to try and do as well by a legend of the game as I can.
Okay,
and at least leave him in place to have his future decided by the next. Give him an opportunity in an interview with the next general manager to see if he can charm him enough to stay on his.
Speaking of non-zero chances, was this year, and this is, again, post-JT Miller trade, but between Quinn Hughes and Connor Garland et al., do you think this room was just so bad that Adam Foote deserves a free pass?
No.
Maybe not free pass, but a pass.
Look at the structure. Look at the system. It's god awful. No. Give me the Wally. No.
My feelings on it. He should have just pulled the Band-Aid off. But
Jim calling Quinn his friend, and he really likes him, and he understands his decisions. And this very sort of soft sell, don't try and make Quinn the bad guy for wanting out some time ago. And then he absolutely sewers the culture of the room without naming Quinn. That was some skillful communication there, because as you, me, and Jeff all concluded, right? Holy cow, what does that say about Quinn and Garland and some of the guys who are in there? Let them draw their own conclusions. Pretty well done, Mr. Rutherford, I must say. Okay, let's get... Yes?
And which is why I think, he is a pretty gifted... Oh, not gifted.
He's a sly old fox.
He can speak. He is not afraid. So I don't think that we need to give him any, he didn't mean X or Y. Jim Rutherford knows what he's saying.
No. Yeah. Adam Foote in a post game, you can tell it just sometimes the articulation, the design, the architecture of his words and what he wants to say and what he wants to hold back isn't there. Allvin too. There was a little bit of the humma.
So
what
that's
am I going to say? What am I supposed to say? But when Jimmy gets up there, Jimmy knows full well what he wants to message. He knows full well what he is not going to get into. And he knows full well what he's going to put in the gray area there and let people draw their own conclusions.
Which is why, Matt, when he
Honestly,
says...
I respect it and I admire it.
When he says they're going to take a big step next season, I think he knows what he's saying. because there's the middle ground where he can say, you know what, I'm going to make sure we're more exciting next year for our home fans. I'm going to make sure that we score more goals next year for our fans. And we're going to do this rebuild the right way. Like
he had said earlier in the season, 2 to 3 years, I think he knew full well. He knows full well that they are not jumping back up into contender status next year. And
he
here's
didn't
the
say
other
that.
thing.
He just said a big step.
Yeah, well, yeah. Big step from where they are is 31st place. Honestly, big step from where they are.
You can make that argument.
You're
You
right
can make
back
that
looking
argument.
at the Landon DuPonts, the Alexei Josephs for next year. Okay, let's move on. The daily poll question. Is firing Parik Allvin enough change? Yes, no. You can vote at the Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. Lest we forget, there was news today outside of Rutherford. They did terminate, or at least, use the proper, relieve him of his general manager duties, to use the proper HR terminology here, because they have offered him a position.
Footnote
within
1,
the
reassigned.
yeah. Footnote, no pun intended. So you can vote there. Look, we put this poll question out when, is that all the change that's coming? Of course, Jim Rutherford has now articulated he may be going as soon as after the draft. Adam Foote may be going, depending on the whims of the new general manager. So it's 4 years, 3 months for Allvin. He was hired 7 weeks after Rutherford back in the winter of 2022. Swedish newspaper Aftonbladet broke the news last night. Apparently the reporter who broke this story is a longtime Swedish scribe, is also of the Leksand community where Parik Allvin cut his Swedish hockey roots. It was December 16th, a few days after the Quinn Hughes trade, that Jim Rutherford finally started talking rebuilds. Now, a couple weeks earlier, he had told Ian McIntyre, we will not rebuild. Stake in the ground. So his tune changed in 2 weeks. And then a week later, Allvin parroted the phrase that hung with him over his head like a dark cloud, retool a little bit with hybrid form. There's part of me that wonders, is Allvin calculating enough that he sat there and he went, Rutherford's talking rebuild. The last guys who talked rebuild to this owner got canned in favor of the guy who told him, no, Francesco, we can turn it around quickly. Like, do you think retool a little bit with a hybrid form was his sort of way of going, Jimmy's going left, I'm going right, and maybe Francesco will choose my vision? Or do you just think it was clumsy wording and he didn't want to utter the word rebuild because he didn't feel like he had the gravitas in the organization to say the word that has been verboten?
I think he saw, if I say rebuild, it is a condemnation of the job I've done to date, and I'm not going to say it.
So Irf Gafar reporting they're going to take their time in hiring his replacement, although Rutherford has effectively set out a timeline of the draft. And look, I know some of you have seen it on social media, like, they're not in a hurry. People chiding this tweet from Irf. How can they not be in a hurry? They got the draft coming up in 2.5 months. Folks, it's 2.5 months. And then secondly, general managers don't often come down with the heavy and say, I'm making the first round pick when they're this new. Whether he's 2 weeks new or whether he's 2.5 months new, more often than not, this is a decision that's left to the director of amateur scouting. And if someone above the director of amateur scouting gets involved, oftentimes it's an inclination of it's the owner's inclination, who the owner wants. So it's a president or it's a GM sort of suggesting, I think we like this guy because that's who the owner wants.
Matt,
there is not a hope in hell of the Canucks taking anyone first overall other than Gavin McKenna if they land first overall.
Which is why I hope for this guy's sake.
You could not look this owner in the face and say, well, we think Stenberg is better on the walls and we think he's got a higher floor, and so let's take Stenberg because he's more NHL ready sooner.
I hope for new GM X. I hope for his sake that the Canucks win that draft lottery so that there is no decision making and there is no original sin that comes back to this, the 2026 NHL entry draft. The minute the Canucks slide to 2, or worse yet, even 3, although 2 is starting to look as foggy as 3, the minute that becomes a big cojones decision right out of the gate, and one that might define the rebuild. Who knows?
And I can absolutely see Mel Hultrad too, if they wind up to.
Yeah, they might.
As mentioned, Rick Dollywell saying they're going to look at the coaching staff, scouts, and medical staff, and talked about how Bluger and Forbert's injuries were handled this year, plus injury stuff he heard of in Abbotsford. That has been a long-standing question with the Canucks. How do they deal with their injured players? You know, the number of injuries they do have, the rehabilitation process, the number of, as Jeff says, maintenance days that turns into weeks and weeks away from the team and IR stints and things of that nature. Boy, that in and of itself would be a pretty big lift for an organization, and frankly, a little stupefying that they don't have that together at this stage of the game. But, of course, there's a lot more going on with the Vancouver Canucks. I suspect we're both no on the poll question that Allvin's dismissal is not changed enough for.
It is not changed enough. No.
We'll move right along to our top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Canucks players say their piece before piecing out. Locker cleanout day ends with emotion from Petey, fire from Demko, and honesty from Teddy Bluger. We played the Elias Pettersson clips earlier, talking about how difficult this season has been away from the rink with his wife and the couple experiencing a couple of miscarriages. But he also doubled down on staying in Vancouver. We played that clip earlier as well. At this time last year, the Canucks were hoping Pettersson stuck around Vancouver and trained under their watchful eye. He lasted that whole week, you may remember. Boy, did he give them a week before bolting to Sweden. But this summer, he's promising changes in his regiment once again. Here's Pettersson.
Yeah, that's what I want to be. I want to be the best player out there, and obviously it hasn't gone the way I wanted it the last 2 seasons and a half. But it's like trying to change up see what what felt good, what not felt good, change up my summer training, and go from there. I know I have a lot of good hockey in me, and I haven't showed it, but I'm confident in myself, but definitely will change up my training a little bit with certain things.
Mike,
it's a Renaissance photo.
I was just going to say, bring that back up for a second, Mike. I'm not done musing on this side profile of Pettersson and Philip Hronek.
Oh, there.
Right there. Stop it right there.
Or just, leave the volume off.
Yeah. So
the morose commentary from
absolutely.
Pettersson, and then the future captain right there beside him, looking engaged with the proceedings.
Honestly, that looks like it could be a round table in Game of Thrones right now.
Totally, yeah.
And before I had seen this visual, I was just thinking, Elias didn't want to say anything to the media. I'm actually wondering if he's just intimidated by Hronek's aura in that moment. Look at Philip Hronek with the crossed arms and the just Viking mean face going on there.
Oh, my goodness.
He looks like he just went out and slayed a bunch of knaves and is coming home to the village.
So you're talking about the owner and Doyle and Rutherford trying to sell season tickets, and that's who they're trotting out.
Hey, that is a hockey player right there. That is a serious bit of hockey player right there.
Oh, my goodness.
That is 210 pounds of serious hockey player. There's no joy after a season like this. No one is allowed to have any fun the rest of the summer by Philip Hronek decree.
You will not hear any Hronek clips on today's show. Hronek's word count today was 7.
Okay, let's get to Thatcher Demko, who is amongst the most articulate Vancouver Canucks I've been around, Blake. I mean, he's like Trevor Linden articulate. We heard from Thatcher for the first time in months. He said he's got the fire to get back, and he's been burning for the last few weeks, months, even while doubting where his career was going and the brutal battle that he's had against negative headspace after all these injuries. Here's Demko.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal, quite frankly. you have to have a sense of positivity going through all those situations and keep telling yourself that, maybe this time would be different. And, you have this hope that you build up even when you don't feel like it. And just to kind of have that letdown every time, time and time again is, it's tough, and I have great friends. The guys sitting up here with me right now, they've been huge supports for me. Other guys on the team too, my wife, medical staff. Like, you do need a village just to keep you going. And, like I said earlier, I think that this last operation that I had is going to be the answer for all that. So it's kind of like that one last time going through all this, hopefully. I mean, obviously it's a game and you don't know, what the future holds as far as injuries. Anyone could get hurt any night, but, just some of the nagging stuff I had, hopefully kind of dissipates and, we've addressed the larger picture. And, that's kind of where my mind frame is at right now. I'm not playing and kind of going through this. I feel that passion and that fire kind of building every day and watching to see what these guys have done, leadership wise and what they've been building the last few weeks and months here. I've never really felt this excited to play here and be a part of, building something next year.
Hearing that, and he gave other similar answers as well. He's pissed me off a little bit at times with his snappiness and some things that we've heard from behind the scenes as well. But I will say this, hearing that answer and the roller coaster of emotions that he's been on, and the disappointment of his body letting him down each and every time, I could imagine him being on his last nerve and being being pretty angry over the hand that has been dealt with him, and thought it was an eloquent answer, and he was for every answer he gave today. And I hope his optimism is not misplaced. I hope he can be the player that he wants to be.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Like I still have trouble with him losing his shit because Kevin Woodley knew it was the popliteus muscle and him going nuclear on something like that. But fair enough, like introspection on our side of the ledger too. Holy cow!
Yeah,
like what
exposed nerve.
what
he's
a
ready
battle
to get angry at something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's and it's easy to shoot messengers, and knowing that my career, and we should keep that more front of mind. Anyways.
Hey, we're good on him. I thought him and Besser stole the show in terms of just great, thoughtful.
Well, here's the thing. Besser sounded like a captain.
He did.
Philip Hronek did not sound like a captain. Mm-hmm. Now, Farhan put him in a bit of a tough spot. I thought the question was well worded by Farhan because it wasn't like a "Do you want to be captain of the Vancouver Canucks?" Like it wasn't sort of adversarial like that. He gave him a softer exit ramp to take. But I think you also got to know that this is Philip Hronek again. Like he looks like a general from Game of Thrones and sometimes acts like one too. He'd make a good Targaryen.
It's a good analogy.
He'd make a good Targaryen. So he wasn't going to take that bait, and he answered as diplomatically as Philip Hronek could, without much detail, saying it's not something that he's thinking about, and he was absolutely sure not to be a self-promoter because there is no greater crime in hockey than being a self-promoter. Besser sounded captain-y, though, if I can use that term throughout. He took the tough questions, handled them with aplomb. In fact, there was one question towards the end, and I forget exactly what it was, but it basically asked Besser to grade Adam Foote as a head coach. And, he paused and he thought, and he kind of started his answer, and then he basically said, that's a tough one for me to answer. And then he took it in the direction that was appropriate without actually putting a letter grade on Foote. That wasn't happening. But got to the gist of things. All that said, and he's a UFA, and he talked about how he would love to be back, but hey, you got to see what the summer holds. David Pagnotta did tell us earlier in the week that he does believe that Teddy Blueger is going to go to market. He thinks that there are some suitors there who like the fact that Blueger had a pretty good year in the games that he did play, despite the injuries. And Blueger, of course, has a Stanley Cup ring from Vegas. And much like we heard in the aftermath of trade deadline, when Teddy Blueger sort of put his stake in the ground in terms of I will be a voice and conscience of this locker room, minus Quinn Hughes, minus Tyler Myers and others. It was Teddy Bluger who admitted what was missing this year and why things went so terribly this season. Here's Bluger.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think, a lot of those things we were missing this year. I think kind of the exciting thing for the team here is, you got a lot of really good young players and a lot of potential. And I think if you grow in the right way, I think, the sky's the limit for this team going forward. But I think as far as like championship team, what it takes to win, I think the daily habits, the professionalism, discipline, not just, half the time, but every day. You show up to work, you're diligent, you're on time, you're prepared. All those things, I think, at certain parts of the year we're lacking. I think we lacked a little bit of unity for a good chunk of the year as well, where we didn't fully trust each other, like Marcus said, and that led to some miscommunications or guys not willing to put themselves on the line for the betterment of the team all the time. I think, on a good team, you have a clear identity as a team, you have clear identity as individual players, and each guy is willing to do everything he can to do their job well because they don't want to let their teammates down. And I think that creates a lot of selflessness, and that kind of stuff is contagious. And I think all those positive things that I mentioned are contagious, and it creates a really positive environment and a lot of success for everyone. And the same way when things go negative, it's really, really hard to snap out of it and to get things going in the right direction.
He honestly sounds like he's from Minnesota, not Latvia.
I know, it's crazy. Him and Marcus Pettersson, not a lick of an accent.
Daily habits missing. Oh, Blake, are you telling me guys aren't showing up on time?
Or
Like
they're
he
just
name
doing the
check
bare
guys.
minimum.
Yeah.
Bare minimum
Unity
stuff.
lacking, although he meant on the ice, not in the room. Although
I don't know.
Rutherford mentioned in the room, so I think Rutherford filled in the gap that Teddy and not putting themselves on the line. So look, they set a price for Bluger at the trade deadline. If someone wasn't meeting it, they were going to keep him here because they wanted to be able to re-sign him up until July 1st, or at least that was what Parik Allvin wanted. We'll see what the next general manager says, but I can see a world where Teddy Bluger is back, and I can see a world where the new general manager comes in and does his due diligence on Canucks players and says, yeah, that's the guy that we want back. We'll see.
David Pagnotta saying yesterday to us, though, that he's going to test the market.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't blame Bluger there. He had a really, given the atmosphere he was playing in, the environment, my God, like his season was quite good. So
Yep.
Don't blame him chasing the dollars.
You chase some tails tonight.
Yellow dog tails. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Not the other kind. You're past that best before date. I'm just saying. Spoken for. Yellow Dog's got beer on sale too, and I know that Matt is a stickler for price tags sometimes. High Five Hazy IPAs. Tall can, 4-packs on special for the month of April. Look for it on sale at private and government liquor stores.
Jake DeBrusk is twice asked about embracing the rebuild today. He gave two answers, both times without actually.
I like Jake today too, by the way. He was good too.
Really like Jake today on a lot of things. But if you're hoping Jake DeBrusk is back next season, he was.
He said the words, the sell job on the words sometimes.
Here's DeBrusk.
Yeah, I mean that's exciting. Obviously, I think that, I think that's, when there's exciting new talent, things of that nature, that's the position we're in. That's what the constellation of this year. It'd be pretty cool to play with somebody of that caliber. That's how I look at that. There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, that was about. Are you excited to play with these young guys going forward next season? So he doesn't really ask do you want to be back? You mentioned about, you didn't sign up for the rebuild at midseason. So 2 questions later comes a follow-up, I believe, from Patrick Johnston. Here's DeBrusk again.
Yeah, I think after every season, you look back and, you try to figure out what went right, what went wrong. Obviously, every year is different, and this one was tough on all of us, young or old. I think it's easy to embrace a rebuild when you have lots of like you said, potential guys in the back end there, and some younger forwards that really took steps. People didn't even really think before the year they'd be on the team, and they were arguably our most consistent guys. But I always take a couple steps back to look at how the year went. Obviously, this year will be one where I'm going to get away from the game, I think, for a little bit, and then I guess readjust just in terms of my own personal training plan.
He went on to say that he wasn't worried about his even strength scoring this year. As you know, he scored pretty much exclusively on the power play. And when asked to analyze it, he sounded like his dad, Louis, in the booth, breaking a game down. We talked about pucks weren't arriving 5-on-5, and when he talked about they didn't have many rush chances this year. When they did, he was the one passing it. He said pucks weren't arriving 5-on-5. He said he has to work on his shot. He used to be able to beat goalies clean.
Good admission. I like it.
He wasn't satisfied with the way he shot the puck this year, but he came around and said he wasn't worried about the 5-on-5 scoring. You picked up on a few other things DeBrusk said that you liked.
Yeah, he did say, I already mentioned he said they think they need to improve in some way, shape, or form in the standings, whether it's 31st or 30th. There needs to be proof of some sort of positive traction. I think he did well to stick handle his way through the interview, maybe better than he did the opposition this season. But, he's savvy enough to know what needs to be said at this time. I don't think I heard anything there from Jake DeBrusk, though, that led me to believe he still doesn't want out. I think he does. And I think he was smart to say everything that he does, and I don't begrudge him. I thought it was a good performance, and I don't mean that sarcastically or derisively. I think he did everything he could do to sound classy, because, again, there's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantees that the Canucks can pull off a trade that he really likes, that makes sense for the Canucks, all that sort of it's 100% he gets traded, but I think for both player and club alike, they would probably like to consummate the trade. So he's got to guard against the 38% chance that he doesn't get traded. But I think he, and probably the team too,
I left it
thinking
that Jake DeBrusk will not be a Vancouver Canuck next year.
Yeah.
Then there's Philip Hedl, whom we also haven't heard from for months, since taking that puck in the face during the Olympic break practice at UBC, suffering several facial fractures. He does say he is still planning to play hockey after all of these concussions and these setbacks. Here's Hedl about being ready for next year.
Yeah, I told you, I fell already in February. I fell 2 years ago. And there's been so much what I went through last 2 years, which was very complicated. But yeah, I feel very good now. I was happy that I could join the group and skate with them. And I'm 100% confident coming to the training camp, and that everything's gonna be okay.
Same answers as Demko, right? You hope upon all hopes he can do it.
Yeah, and
for the guy,
there have been some advances in terms of how to treat concussions and brains of late, and
neck issues too. He's also had neck issues too.
And I would not be surprised if Philip Hedl turned over every rock in this space and went out and sought some of these newer, more cutting-edge treatments, ways to go about managing the head, brain, and neck injuries that have plagued him in his NHL.
And you're right to be skeptical as a fan watching this team that he can do it, but small chance.
But it's his life
chance.
And it's his career. And as Jeff said, he's got $4 million plus at stake next year. So he is going to give it a go. And I do admire his resilience through all of this, because I think many would have quit a long time.
And remember, Matt, the 5 games that he played, we all were like, wow, he's flying. He's looking pretty good.
He has looked pretty good in a Vancouver Canucks uniform.
In the
zone entries, the way he skates.
Yeah.
Now, I do wonder about, are you better off playing the wing, son, and not being susceptible to those big open ice hits? But you're also playing up against the glass a little bit more, right? Where a head knock into the glass isn't,
But we don't see as many concussions from that. It seems way more open ice.
It's the whiplash, the unsuspecting hit in open ice,
From him in particular.
Yeah. There was a game last night. The Canucks lost it, putting an exclamation mark on this season. 6-1 in Edmonton. They finished the season 25-49-8. Last in the NHL, 14 points in arrears of Chicago, next worst, and a minus 100 goal differential, as we talked about. Canucks finished 31st in offense with 210 goals for, 32nd in defense with 314 goals against. But there was a good story from last night. Ty Mueller scored the lone Canucks goal, the first of his National Hockey League career. He did so in his hometown of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And superb hand-eye control, too.
It's a great goal.
It's a bouncing, very awkward pass.
And then goes 5-hole. It was
absolutely.
beautiful.
And then have the presence of mind to finish after he corrals that puck. Great celebration.
And just if people miss this story, Josh Szymanski scored for the Oilers on the other side. His second of his young NHL career. Both of these goals have been credited long after the play. I saw Oilers fans bringing this up. He's got 2 NHL goals. He hasn't raised his hands as the goal scorer in either one of them. And here, Ty Mueller goes home, family's in the stands, and he scores a nice one on a breakaway.
Absolutely. Great, touching story. Yeah. And boy, do we need those sorts of stories, huh? After this season. I love the celebration. You have 6'9" Curtis Douglas enveloping him in I joked he looks like a hobbit. I had to check his height. I'm like, how big is Mueller? He's 5'11". He was made to look like he was...
Yeah. Little man.
Oh.
The wee man.
Yeah. So nice story on a night and season where everything went wrong for the Canucks. And Canucks ownership, including this scene from Yaletown last night. And shout out to, this is her friend Carm Sumal with the video. That's the building that houses Elisa, the Aquilini-owned restaurant named for the late family matriarch. Very fancy restaurant. And the good news is everybody was okay. There were no injuries to report in that fire. They did have to clear the dining room, though, during the supper service. So thankfully everyone is okay. Vancouver Fire Rescue Services Assistant Chief Pierre Morin told CTV News the firefighters believe the blaze started in the restaurant's cook vent system, though what caused it to ignite remains unknown. Thankfully, everyone's okay. Got to clean out those vents of the grease flake every so often.
Might need a rebuild.
Yeah. But the symbolism here, unmistakable. And the internet had jokes. Here we go. Damn. Everything Aquilini owns is literally on fire. Next one. All steaks will be well done tonight. And then last one. White smoke coming from the roof of Elisa. Have they finally chosen a new owner? Some people had GM in there, but you get the...
That's a very good one, yes. People are more eagerly anticipating the new owner than they are the new GM, I would suspect, so...
Yes. Habermas Papem. Mm-hmm. Let's get to today's menu. It is brought to you by our friend...
We do have some Super Chats, so...
Yes. Let's get to Super Chats. Mike will be
Mike, you're leading the way. I couldn't see them myself,
with
so
me
here we go.
if I don't get to Super Chats. Super Chat button always available to you. Hit it. Make your donation. Half proceeds to the BC Mental Health Foundation, and we will get it on the program. This one from Serena. So they gave Garland a contract to keep Quinn even though he was leaving, and assuming Garland picking on people, wouldn't that make him partly responsible for the room being toxic? As we said, we don't know for sure. And Connor Garland picking on someone, I do have a little bit of trouble with that because I don't care how young I am in the room. If that hobbit starts picking on me, but certainly what Rutherford had to say today did not cover a lot of these veterans, including Quinn and Connor Garland in glory. And frankly, Myers too. Let's not give Myers a pass here. Honestly, Tyler, talking about big and small and picking on people. How's Tyler Myers not stepping
Yeah,
up?
you would have thought there'd be more authority to it, but it's just it's sheer numbers, and if the clique was big enough, if that bad corner of the room was big enough, I mean,
they were all disciples of that JT clique.
well, and it makes the decision of last summer, like if signing Besser and Garland and was all an attempt.
Jeff says hope bets,
but if hope bets on the ice and off the ice, if that was the attempt to keep Quinn, boy. Just shot yourself in the foot.
All right, what's the other super chat here, Mike? Matt, when are we going to start talking about how Canadian franchises can outdraft star Americans? The comment about Matthew Tkachuk did not surprise me. Ottawa must know their captain is 100% leaving. Oh, absolutely. Brady Tkachuk is gone this summer. I think everybody knows that there, even if they don't want to speak it into even if they don't want to speak it into existence.
I think it's
I think Brady was particularly pissed off at everything that went on this year with the whole allegations about Allmark and why he missed time and how everybody got roped into that.
For those that missed it, the Tkachuks have a family podcast now, and Matthew and Keith were chuckling about it and laughing about it and saying, how did this happen? How does this happen in a room? And they were speaking vaguely. They weren't saying in the Senator's room, but Brady knew what they were talking about and was just sort of awkwardly sitting beside them.
But you tweeted about it too, Blake, after hearing that with Rutherford saying, like, look, I've known Quinn was wanted out for some time. He wanted to go back to the U.S., drew the Matthew Tkachuk parallel. Here's the thing. You're a Canadian team. The Super Chat has it right. You think long and hard before you draft an American player with a high pick thinking they're going to be a franchise guy. For whatever reason, there is a nationalist bent right now in the United States. They don't feel comfortable in other countries because of the political situation and leadership there, which has steered the United States to an isolationist position worldwide. And in some cases, it's as simple as weather and taxes. In other cases, I think it's cuts a little deeper. But I would not be at all surprised if whoever goes into Toronto sits down and has a conversation with Austin Matthews, and if they are not 100% convinced that he's all in for an extension there, I would not be at all surprised if Austin Matthews is dealt this summer.
I think there is a...
In fact, I would bet Connor Hellebuck is also dealt this summer out of Winnipeg.
You can't paint with so broad a brush and say Americans X, but I think there is, in a lot of cases, less of an appetite to consume another culture as well, and just to have things be different.
Well, also, there's a whole segment now of American political culture that demonizes Canada.
Mm-hmm. There's that too.
Right. So
I think it's
if you're of that political bent, like right now, and that's what you consume in terms of your news and politics, you are currently being brainwashed, even if before your eyes you see our country and go, well, it's not actually communism here. It's not actually socialism here.
Exactly.
I do get actual medical care here.
I think it's a tiebreaker at the very least in an NHL entry draft scenario where if it's between two players, I think you have to put it into the equation now. It's where interviews will come in huge.
Absolutely.
Like you can't ask the people how they've voted, but I think you can try to glean the true appetite of a player for a different culture and a different country.
Blake, I would flat out ask them, are you MAGA? I would want to know, like, are you in that ecosystem? Because if you're in that ecosystem, there's probably a good chance at some point you're going to come into conflict with something Canada.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I don't think you're allowed to ask that, but you can find a way to ask it without asking it.
You're not allowed to ask them about their political affiliations in a job interview?
I don't think so.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
I don't think you are.
What right is that?
It's
but you get the choice to whether to draft them or not, right? So don't you want all the information? Like you're not denying them a job.
No, but you can't ask personal questions. You can't ask them how they vote or their sexuality and all that sort of stuff. I mean,
okay.
It's. I mean, I think for teams that have been bitten by this already, Calgary's and Vancouver's, I think they're going to.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's going to color their decision
making. It would be
making.
malpractice not to.
Yeah.
It's get to our menu. It's brought to you by Greta. Fantastic spot to catch all the games, home and away. You can pregame there, postgame there, your steps from the arena or stadium. Big soccer match tonight. And, of course, it's an awesome spot for your next private party. They have a riser at the back and be all yours. It's surrounded by screens. It's got its own bar back there. You've got the arcade that goes throughout the grounds there at Greta, and an awesome menu of approachable street food. Try the Smash Burger. It's delicious. For more info to book your event, gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We will talk to Jeff Merrick coming up here. Now, full disclosure, we talked to Jeff earlier today. The Parik Allvin news was in, but the Jim Rutherford press conference had not yet happened. We'll talk to him about Allvin. We'll talk to him about Ryan Johnson. We will talk to him about all of the Canucks people who have scouted Caleb Malhotra. He's got great information there. We'll also talk about Parker Alcos, Canucks draft pick with the Kelowna Rockets, whom he saw this week during his BC adventure, was quite impressed. Later in the program, big one for the Whitecaps at home against BC Place, can move into a untied first place in MLS. Huge one for Vancouver Warriors tomorrow in the NLL season finale. They can move into first place of the league at the end of the regular season. They will host a playoff game. BC Lions with a signing, and a few other tidbits. Oh, Jays Mariners, and a hell of a game by the Vancouver Canadians last night. Banger down in Spokane.
They have found their bats.
They have. All of that is coming up on the show. It is time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. Now, I took a very big swing after going 3-0 earlier in the week on Drew O'Connor last night. Did not pay off.
I did not pay out either.
Okay.
Looking for a best or goal, didn't happen.
So I'm looking at Stanley Cup playoff series, and hear my mouth. Brandon Bussey has been the worst goaltender in the National Hockey League since the Olympic break. Linus Ullmark has really turned his season around over the last quarter. The Senators have been playing playoff games effectively for a month here. And we know they play a suffocating defensive style. Travis Green has done a hell of a job there. Carolina gets a lot of shots, but not often a lot of high dangers. Do they have the elite finishing? Open-ended questions. They certainly have some playoff bugaboos. Do the Hurricanes? Ottawa's been one of the three best teams in the NHL alongside Carolina over the last few months. I'm going to take a big swing here on my hometown team. They're plus 145 to win the series. Smaller bets, Senators in 5 at plus 950.
I'm going to not choose games, just winner. A little more vague, but it's a pretty good number for a team that has the support of a lot of people in the analytics community.
We're going upset here.
Against a team that has all the name, but up until recently, no bite. Torts had some fun here at the end of the season. I don't think it's going to matter in the playoffs. The Utah Mammoth to win the series over the Golden Knights, plus 155.
Tired of waiting for the end of the game to get paid, ready to move on to the next puck drop? That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast, and now with 3-goal early payout, there's one less thing you have to wait around for. Bet365. Download the app, see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Jeff Merrick is next. So, Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
And the segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers. And starting the day early at home studio means I could just be unplugging the Prius from my driveway and driving into town, fully electric, passing by the gas stations and those gaudy numbers that are on the signs, I'd be feeling pretty good about that. Geez, I should really get down there because Red Tag Days deals are on, and you get the best deals of the season. ShopToyota.ca. Get behind the wheel of this beauty and enjoy the freedom of 72 kilometers of electric driving every single morning.
Let's welcome in Jeff Merrick of The Sheet, weekdays here on the Nation Network, back from his BC adventure. We will get to that momentarily, Mr. Merrick. Hey, anytime you spend the spring in BC is good time. But first, we will start with your reaction, sir, to the Canucks firing General Manager Parik Allvin today.
I mean, the waters had been chummed for a while. I don't think anyone should necessarily be surprised. Although, again, this report initially comes to us from a Swedish outfit, but as I'm told, the reporter who reported it lives in Leksand, where, of course, Parik Allvin lives when he goes back home. So, connect the dots on that one. Boy, a lot of ways to go on this one. Not exactly surprised, but I think a good part of all of us look at this and say the guy that didn't make the decisions got fired for the decisions that were made that got the Vancouver Canucks into the place where we find them right now. I've always told my kids, go to the dictionary and rip the word fair out because it doesn't exist and it just sets you up for disappointment. But it is, I think, a pretty clear indication here that this is, one of the first shoes to drop, dominoes to fall in what is going to be a restructuring of the Vancouver Canucks front office. Rutherford plays out his one more year, and by then the new general manager, and we all expect it to be Ryan Johnson, even though Irfan Gaffar said they're going to cast the net a little bit wider than we might think, and interview some people as well. And then that becomes the new crew. We all do, of course, wonder about the coaching situation, as we talked about last week on the program, and you guys have gone into length about a number of times here on the podcast. So long-winded answer, but the short one is not surprised. It was always trending in this direction.
So you don't think anybody exotic, any big names come in? You're putting the favorite money on RJ.
I am. Yes, I think that is the path of least resistance and probably the favored path here for the Vancouver Canucks. That to me makes a whole lot of sense. I think that the Vancouver Canucks have indicated numerous times that that he's in this for the long term, that he's someone that they've identified and want to keep for whatever this next version of the Vancouver Canucks looks like. I could see that hiring happening, I mean, obviously before the draft officially, and then he sort of sits at the mentor's feet with Jim Rutherford for a year, and then it's his own ship to steer. That's kind of like initially how it feels.
So you think Rutherford is going to play it out here, and that'll be that after this season?
I think he'd like to. Isn't this an indication that the Allvin firing specifically is an indication Rutherford is safe? Do you think I'm misreading that one?
I'm not sure everybody's out of the woods here. I'm not sure.
I think Adam Foote. I think there's a big question mark.
Well,
there.
Why wouldn't you do Adam Foote today then? Why wouldn't you do Adam Foote today? What's the wait there?
I don't know that we don't get a dismissal in the next little while.
Yes, true.
To be honest with you, like, I mean, the season just wrapped up. The weekend to think about it after long consideration. We feel that you can almost read the press release here, right? As opposed to just
that would be
right at the end.
That would be a hell of a day, Jeff Merrick. I can't remember the last time a pro sports franchise fired two people on the same day with separate releases.
No,
getting it in right before the Stanley Cup playoffs, owning the news cycle.
Let's not lose sight too that it's up to, and let's slide it under here as everybody's attention quickly turns to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think we all have questions about Adam Foote. We talked last time, like if you don't see him as the right guy to shepherd your prospects now, because let's face it, next year and for the next couple of years is going to be seasons where we only ask one question: how are the kids doing? And if the kids are doing better, then it's a successful day, week, month, year. And if not, then there's even bigger questions. But I think the next thing you identify is who's the right coach to coach a much younger team with some highly thought of prospects, starting with whomever they select this year in the upcoming NHL draft. Who's the right coach to take care of these kids?
And as we've talked about, Mr. Merrick, the path of least resistance there, and a gentleman who's under contract to Canucks Sports and Entertainment next season is Manny Malhotra, whom has fans and has credentials, has fans around the league, has credentials with this organization as a Calder Cup championship coach. The only hang up there is they may be drafting his son. And I understand you've been doing some more digging on your favorite prospect. Honestly, when Caleb Malhotra goes on stage, Jeff Merrick should be in tow here. You have been quite a booster of young Caleb all season.
Listen, I think the world of either be the person, see the family. I just think that this guy clicks on all levels. I know it sounds like I'm his agent when I come on your program and talk about Caleb Malhotra. But the thing that everybody needs to understand in Vancouver, too, it's not like the Vancouver Canucks just woke up to Caleb Malhotra. Like, there have been multiple people in this organization that have been following Caleb Malhotra all season long. Like, it's not just Todd Harvey, who will go to 30 games or 40 games or 50 games. But I've been told, and just been going around the rinks too, and saying like, oh yeah, Parik Allvin was out to see Malhotra. Oh, Castonguay was out to see Malhotra. Like, there have been a lot of eyeballs on Caleb Malhotra, and it's not just recently. It's been all season long, to the point where I really do wonder if it's not the first overall pick that the Vancouver Canucks get here. Like, even if it's number 2, I wonder if this is the direction they go, that they go Caleb Malhotra. Like, that's how much they've had eyeballs on this guy. Now, there are a lot of other teams, obviously, that have had a lot of eyeballs. I think Chicago has had a lot of eyeballs on Caleb Malhotra as well all season long. That one would make a lot of sense, too. But I think that, put it this way, Vancouver's not sleeping on Malhotra. I don't think they're sleeping on any of the top prospects. I really don't think they're sleeping on Malhotra at all. And yes, that would complicate. How many times has a parent said, I would have had the job, but my damn son ruined it? But that might be one of those situations.
I think maybe the owners of this team would say that statement. But
now we should clarify. There is very little chance that Caleb Malhotra is a Vancouver Canuck next year if they draft him, right? So they would have some time. No, I know.
You're not having Manny in for 2 years. You're not. No way.
Right. But it's not like both Malhotras would be on the same charter next season. No, immediately.
No.
Okay, since we're speaking of draft prospects, you saw Carson Karls in the PG Penticton series?
Good. Yeah, PT Penticton series. Yeah, man, he's good. Like, honestly, it's gonna be interesting to see how this shuffles out with the defenders. Like, every time you see Keaton Verhoff, you say, okay, that's got to be he's got to be right there with Gavin McKenna. He's got to be number 2 or number 3. And then you see, the defender from Prince George that you just mentioned, Carson Karls, and you say to yourself, no way, like, with that skating and that size, like, it's got to be him. And then you watch Chase Reed. I went and saw him a couple of weeks ago in London playing against the Knights, and outside of Brady Martin, he's hands down the best player on the ice. Well, the goaltender Carter George was good too, but he really stands out, and boy, can that guy snap a puck. It's going to be interesting to see this is that draft year where if you're in the top 10, you want a defenseman, you get a defenseman this year, and you're going to get a good one too. It's going to be interesting to see. But the thing about Karls that really stands out to me, man, that explosive skating. Like, you watch this guy on zone entries and protecting the puck, and he's strong, and he makes smart decisions time after time after time.
Is this Schaefer-esque kind of skating, or what kind of skate are you talking about? The edge work like a Hudson or Hughes?
He doesn't have the speed. Like the thing about Matthew Schaefer is, and I watched him play. I'm trying to do this sort of. I'm not comparing him as an NHLer. I'm comparing him as an Erie Otter to the player at Prince George, because I don't think it's fair to compare him like as an what we see with the Islanders. The thing about Matthew Schaefer, as an Erie Otter, he did as he saw fit, like as he pleased. He could do anything at the junior hockey level, because he knew he was fast enough to recover and get back. He would join every rush. He would go deep into the offensive zone, and he would still be fast enough and be able to close quick enough to get back.
Yeah.
No, put it this way: nobody in the draft is like that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
There's I love Chase Reed skate. There's no Matthew Schaefer skaters in this draft. No way.
It's funny because Central Scouting put out their list yesterday, their final ranking of skaters, and they put out a little video on social media as well. And to your point about picking in the top 10, one of the scouts described the picks 2 through 6, saying just a buffet of players and a good one. But one of the scouts pinpointed on Carlson, said, he's the guy who most reminds me of Cale Makar from this defense group in terms of being able to control a game and all facets of it. So, yeah, they got a good one up there.
The other thing too, and this is sort of lost on Cale Makar's game too, but you do see it. Like the comparison, the comparison isn't exact, obviously, but there is one area where him and Malhotra do have something in common that we don't talk enough about when it comes to Cale Makar, and that is physicality. And the physicality comes from that elite level skating, and how he, like, I still go back to like that Jordan Stahl hit was one of the best hits we've seen in the last 10 years, right? And Carroll's can do that. Same thing. He can close quick. He's big, he's powerful, he's strong, he's a great skater, and he can close on guys and isn't shy about being physical. And PG's got a pretty big team too, so that helps.
How did Landon DuPont look, and did you have to wipe the drool from face while watching the presumptive first overall in 2027?
Everybody, Maddie. Everybody. And right away in warm-up, right away, just effortless skating. It's amazing to watch. Like, first of all, like, do you guys have the same feeling when you go to junior hockey games now as opposed to 20 years ago? I always say the same thing. Where did the bad skaters go? Mm-hmm. Where's all the bad skaters? Everybody can skate, but then
they all got skating coaches now, Jeff. They all got Barb Underhill. There's others teaching them how to skate now. It's unbelievable.
You're right. But Landon DuPont is a cut above everybody else. Just the way that he controls. I think he hit 2 crossbars in that game 3 that we were at too. Like he was phenomenal. And the thing about it as well, and I did see this with Brady Martin, and all the greats get this, but I was really curious about how DuPont would handle it. Like Kelowna went at Landon DuPont hard. Everybody face up against the glass, really physical against DuPont, and he never wilted, and he never changed the way that he played once. This is sublime. The playmaking, the shot selection, the way that he creates, the way that he's a one-man zone exit, an entry machine. Like he's the only thing he doesn't have is like he's not 6'4", right? It's like you want to nitpick about Landon DuPont. He's not massive, but he more than makes up with it by just how smart this kid is, and you notice him right away. He's impossible. Makes it impossible for you to ignore him. He's sublime. It's like a sublime.
Did Parker Alkos cross your gaze at all?
Yeah, because he was your shutdown guy, right? Up against Everett's got a wagon of a team, and they have a lot of players that can put up points really quickly, led by Ethan Bear. And you look at, or Carter Bear rather, you look at, who was out there when the top line was out there. It's the Vancouver Canucks prospect. He's a good two-way guy. Big trade. They gave up, what did Kelowna give up? Like a first, a second, and a third. I think the first was import draft to bring him in from Edmonton. He's going to be real important for this team at Memorial Cup. Like, I think it'll take him a while to play, and I don't think he's going to be a top 4 guy, but I think he does play in the NHL, and with that skill set, he probably plays for a long time. Again, there you go. There's a little shot of him there too. Good height, good size, two-way. Josh Georges, who's the assistant coach there in Kelowna, really likes him a lot. Gooder. Not going to get a ton of offense out of him, but he does have a skill set that's going to allow him to play for a long time.
Hey, in the 6th round, you're allowed to draft your 6th defenseman.
Absolutely,
right?
that's
okay.
There's no shame in that.
You're looking for NHL contributors, even depth players in the 6th round. So no, and Harvey and this group, as we've said, have done a pretty darn good job when you look at how some of these prospects have tracked. Not to mention some of the guys that we've gotten to the NHL already. In some cases, much earlier than we expected them, like EPD. Okay, let's talk Stanley.
You'll like them.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk Stanley Cup playoffs, Jeff. I did a show in Edmonton yesterday where they asked me for an outrageous Stanley Cup playoff prediction. I'm putting you on the spot, but is there something in that great hockey?
One?
Well, it doesn't have to be outrageous, but is there something in that great hockey brain of yours that when you look at these pairings, there's matchups, or you look down the bracket, strikes you as something that's interesting, or that something is something that people aren't necessarily talking about front of mind here today?
What happens if Utah beats Vegas? I always look at a series. Listen, we're all in media here. We're looking for the best story. What's going to be great for our show? What happens if Utah beats Vegas?
John Tortorella has not lost a game in regulation yet as head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. I will remind you.
With all due respect, look at the games he had, sir.
I understand. 2 of them were against Vancouver. Hey, let me ask you this. Torts in Vegas, Tocchet in Philadelphia, Travis Green in Ottawa.
Is that lost on anybody?
Which ex-Canucks coach goes deepest in the playoffs?
Ooh. I can see them. I can see them all out in the first round. To be honest with you.
So you sound like you're very bullish on the Mammoth here, if that's not a oxymoron or mixed metaphor.
I am. I really am. I've just seen, and I think a lot of it comes down to the goaltending with the Vegas Golden Knights, whereas, Karel Vejmelka has been one of the best untold stories around the NHL this season. And maybe I put too much of an accent on goaltending in playoffs, but I really don't think so. Vegas's issues are well told, and a lot of it revolves around the goalies have been hard to hit. And we all know that ownership, because I don't just think that this is a management issue, that ownership does not take losing lightly. And the John Tortorella, Bruce Cassidy move really felt like, and probably was, a Hail Mary pass, the desperation move to try to jolt this team into winning again. I could really see it. I could see Utah beating the Vegas Golden Knights. And good on Bear if that happens. Andre Tournier, who's one of the top coaches, certainly one of the top junior coaches we've ever seen come through the CHL, and a really underrated coach at the National Hockey League level as well. I could see it, mainly because I really like Utah as a team, and I can really see, and we all saw this year, a lot of holes in the Vegas Golden Knights. So if you're looking for like a wild one that's going to produce the best stories, if Utah beats Vegas, what happens then?
How many playoff rounds does Sidney Crosby win?
1.
But he gets into the final 8.
I think they beat the Philadelphia Flyers, but I think after that the clock strikes midnight on the Pittsburgh Penguins. But that's a great season. Again, that's a great season. Yeah. I just can't see that line going deep. Can you, Blake? I just can't. And Dan Hughes has been fantastic, and Crosby this, and I get it, but I just can't see that blue line going deep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Easter egg time. I have some leftovers from a couple of weeks ago.
Can I ask you guys something? The one that's so hard to figure out, and I want to say Buffalo. I was having a conversation with someone about this morning. I got no read on Buffalo Boston.
Oh, good, completely. Like if Boston won that series, like of course they did, because Buffalo can't have anything nice. But
I know.
Yet they're so damn good. Maybe it's a sweep for Buffalo. I don't know.
I really want to say Buffalo, but then there's Jeremy Swayman.
I think it's 7 games, and it's a bloodbath worthy of the Adams division. That's what I think for Buffalo Boston.
Okay. All right, I'm down with that.
I forgot. I was going to ask you. You got your first chance to see the BC Hockey Hall of Fame exhibit at the South Okanagan Event Center in Penticton, and you lit up the text. I could see just the bright smile of Jeff Merrick on text when he mentioned it to me.
First of all, this is not to denigrate any other Hall of Fames at CHL arenas. I love you all. You're all beautiful. But there is nothing like the British Columbia Hockey Hall of Fame. Pat Lawyer, former Brandon Wheat King, was on that team with Ray Ferraro, as a matter of fact, and Ray's in the BC Hockey Hall of Fame, as you guys well know, has done an incredible job with this thing. I know many people watching and listening right now are like, yeah, dummy, wow, Ontario guy discovers the BC Hockey Hall of Fame is wonderful. Well, it's true. But for anyone who hasn't been, do yourself the favor. The exhibits are phenomenal, especially the Carey Price one. I mean, I'm a sucker for old like New Westminster Bruins stuff, and there's some great stuff on New West, and there's a great with Ernie Punch McLean, but like the jerseys and the Zamponi sweaters and the pictures, like they have done Pat has done an incredible job, and I think it's still getting another facelift too. Before I think Andrew Ladd is the next one to go in. So Pat was saying that it's still improving. I think they're going to do something else with it, and it's free. Just wander in. The whole thing is free. They do such a great job with it. It's phenomenal. I know that when Carey Price was there, the lineup was down the hallway and out the door for autographs, and of course he's Carey Price, and he's great. He's stayed for everyone and everything as well. I just can't speak highly enough about how everything is like so cleanly laid out, and it's not just players too, but like our mutual friend John Shannon is in the BC Hockey Hall of Fame as well. And there's a lovely display with his book and his background and the hockey night jacket and all those types of things. So it is. I give it like full marks, 10 out of 10. BC Hockey Hall of Fame. Le premier étoile, comme on dit en français.
Jeff, I've been to 9 provinces and lived in 4 of them, and there is one absolute truth about Canada, with apologies to our friends, one province to the east and in Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island, but BC is always more beautiful than every other province.
It's gorgeous.
With the exception of this show, actually, we might be the exception to the Ontario shows are prettier. Jeff Merrick and his feathers perfectly coiffed. But really, outside of this show, if it's emanating from BC, if it's in BC, it's prettier than the rest of Canada.
always say the same thing. Why am I leaving? I spent
that's why I'm here, Jeff. That's why I'm here.
That was my first time in Penticton. Loved it. Been to Kelowna a bunch. Man, Penticton's charming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Kelowna's just like cool, and man, I could live here. This is awesome. But there's a charm that Penticton has that I don't know that I've seen in Canada. It's amazing.
Jeff, I used to come out once a year for a CFL game, and I would always get the red-eye flight home on the Sunday night. And when the plane would take off from YVR, I would get a pit in my stomach, and I'd look out the window at what I was leaving, and like a single tear would fall down my cheek. And I'm like, why don't I live there? I don't need papers. You can just move there. It's Canada, freedom, mobility.
Penticton is where you shoot a coming-of-age movie, right? Starring John Candy as the father. That's what Penticton is to me.
In fact, there is a coming-of-age movie from Penticton. I believe it was on Crave the other night. I'll get you the title for next week. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah?
Okay, Easter egg time.
Okay. Is it about the Penticton V's?
No.
Graham
This
Fraser?
is about the Stanley Cup. I thought about going there, but we're going to go Stanley Cup playoffs here on the opening weekend. So the National Hockey League adopted this divisional playoff alignment in 2013, 2014. We are going to throw the pandemic bubble expanded playoffs out of the equation. There have been 11 postseasons under this format. 22 different Stanley Cup finalists. Which seed appears most in the Stanley Cup final? 1, 2, 3, wild card 1 or wild card 2. Of the 5 seeds, and I don't mean conference, I mean division here. 1, 2, 3, wild card 1 or wild card 2. Which seed appears most in the Stanley Cup final?
That's
of the 22.
Great one. I'm going to say 2.
Yeah, that's easy.
I'm
That's
going
the
to
easy
say
answer.
2.
Blake?
It does sound very safe, eh, Blake?
Yeah,
Go WC2. Go WC2. Go WC2. WC2. Come on, Blake. Do it.
No. I'm going Division 2.
You're both going 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 3.
Third in the
ti-
division.
3, eh?
8 times the third place team in a division has advanced to the Stanley Cup final. Guys, the first 3 years of this format, the Western Conference sent a number 3 team to play a number 2 team in the East. The West has sent 6 different number 3 seeds of their 11 champions in this format, and the East has sent 2 of them. And in fact, a number 3 team in the West versus a number 2 team in the East has been the matchup 5 out of 11 times.
That's shocking to me because if you're going to send a team that was starting on the road and was probably on the road for the first
that's right.
2 rounds, you'd think the Eastern team would be that because of less travel. So you're in the West where you got more travel. That's a team that's on the road a lot more for the first 2 rounds.
And here's the other thing, guys.
You know, there's
number 2 seeds.
Jumping on first. Yep. Go ahead.
Number 2 seeds are next up 7 times in the Stanley Cup
Don't
final.
win the division. What I always say.
The 1 seeds have only been there 5 times. 5 out of 22.
How many times have you talked to coaches and they've said in the playoffs they would rather open on the road? Because to them, when you're on the road, it's just a game. When you're at home, it's a gong show.
It's all the pomp
More
and ceremony.
so in Canada
it's
than the United
horns
States.
on downtown. It's all of those
the
things.
The phone calls and all of that. Coaches will tell you, I want to open on. To the point where there are a number of coaches that treat home games like away games, and they'll put the guys in the hotel.
But also,
Absolutely.
if you start on the road, you got two swings of the ball to win.
That's right.
As long as you come out of the
Just get
split,
one.
you feel like you've won.
Split.
That's right.
You've done your job.
Yep. Incidentally, Wildcard 1 has never appeared in a Stanley Cup final. Wildcard 2, there's 2 of them. Nashville in 2017 and Florida, what year was that? 25, 26, 25, 23. Florida in 23.
You know what I always enjoy? When
and just let me get this in.
About it.
Only once has one played one, 2018. That was Washington versus Vegas.
I always enjoy when coaches try to stick handle this question. Do you think that you're peaking too early? Like a team that's going on the run and they're number 1. I'm just dying for a coach to say, yeah, that's why we're scratching all of our top guys tonight.
Yeah, exactly. We're peaking too early. I'm just happy we're winning this game. And if we're peaking for the next game, I'm happy with that as well. I'll worry about down the road if and when we get there.
Let me throw one, you guys. So for the first time since 1996, save percentage in the NHL is sub 900. Right now, is more so than ever, advantage shooter. Is it time we have the discussion that we need to make the goaltending equipment bigger?
Oh, God.
No.
Okay. Thanks for the time, Jeff.
I just wanted to see your reaction.
I'm glad you enjoyed beautiful British Columbia. Come back and visit anytime.
Talk to you next week.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Disqualifying.
That's awesome. That's
very
so
good.
Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center in the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio built by R. Burley. Tickets secured, hotels solved. Make the Wall Center your downtown headquarters for every big game concert, rivalry night. See what's happening at wallcenter.com. Well, switching gears, Whitecaps tonight, 7:30 versus a reeling SKC team at BC Place. A standalone MLS game to move into an untied first place in both the Western Conference and the league. Many injuries for both sides here. Joe Hall reporting for the Daily Hive. None of the injured Caps guys will make it back for this week, so no Sam Adekugbe, Ryan Gauld, Halbuni, Priso, Schonlau, and Veselinovic. Bassong, that's a Canadian international for Sporting KC, right? Outside chance at a World Cup.
Outside chance.
Yeah.
I like him. He's speedy down the left side. He's a fullback. But, I mean, let's face it, every single one of those injured Whitecaps would start on SKC.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is it that bad? They got destroyed 3-0 by a USL side in US Open Cup play, the equivalent of the Canadian Championship this week. So they're tired and they're licking wounds.
Hey, sports is sports. They make them play the games because there are fabulous stories told. That's why we love, this part of society. But this also could be very ugly tonight.
I was going to say, Blake Price is predicting a huge upset tonight. So you mentioned this a little yesterday, but because of the quality or lack thereof of the opponent here tonight, does this give Jesper Sorensen an opportunity to start more of a B lineup, rest his guys, and then if it's close after half, come with the bigger guns?
Last year's schedule would have made that necessary. Their next game is next weekend. Like they're just like this was again sort of that silver lining to them getting bounced in Champions Cup is you ain't stressing now. Like, yeah, they could do that, Matt, but they also don't need to do that. Like it's like everybody.
Well, he has talked about managing Mueller's minutes. So
yeah, and playing on the turf is hard on a 36-year-old for sure. But
of course, you have depth and options too, Blake. So I do think you want to keep guys fresh and involved.
Mueller has not complained, and I think I think Mueller and Sorensen are on the same page of, Mueller is not the champion at the bit 30-year-old that's like I got to be in every game, blah 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 blah. Like I think Mueller knows he sees the full picture. He's been there, he's done that. He knows okay, but I also think Mueller knows I'm not going to the World Cup. Like. I'm gonna get 6 weeks off here.
Yeah,
like I can make it to the end here. Let's just keep on keeping on.
If you're waiting for Thomas Mueller to complain, you can wait a long time. He's a very affable fellow. And news this week from Vancouver Rise FC, who named their captains for season 2026. Defender Shannon Wohler and midfielder Quinn. Quinn, of course, has been a stalwart on the Canadian national team. The home opener a week from tonight at Swangard, a championship celebration after the Rise won the Northern Super League in its inaugural season.
Two
Wish
veterans.
them well.
Wohler is a former national teamer. She hasn't been really part of the mix for a number of years. She's 36 years of age, 21 caps, and but hasn't really been part of the mix for the last 6-7 years, something like that.
Big one tomorrow at Rogers Arena. When's the last time you said that? Warriors can finish first in the National Lacrosse League with a win versus last place Philadelphia on Fan Appreciation Night. Now, it's not as simple as win and finish first. It is very tightly bunched at the top of the NLL table. Vancouver needs a win and a loss from Colorado in Calgary tomorrow to clinch first. They lost to Colorado in week 1, and that could very well be the head-to-head tiebreaker that keeps them out of first place in the NLL. They will finish top 4, and that means home floor advantage for a single elimination first-round playoff game, and the club announced this week that game will take place a week from today, Friday, April 24th, 7 p.m., at Rogers Arena. We will know their opponent after the final weekend of the regular season in the NLL. And Keegan Ball is chasing a couple of individual accomplishments here. He has been outstanding for the Warriors this season. He leads the scoring race by 1 point. He could very well be the first Warrior to capture league MVP and the scoring championship. We wish the Warriors well. They took us on a fun ride last year, back half of the season and into the postseason, all the way to the league semis. We'll host that quarterfinal a week from tonight.
Halftime dog races on Fan Appreciation Day.
How do you not like the dog races?
And they are doing jerseys off their backs at the end of the game as well. Word is Derek Forber's jersey will also be available after this game.
He was good for them this year.
Almost played as many games for them as he did the Canucks.
Oh, wow. Mariners get swept by San Diego. Blue Jays lose 2 of 3 in Milwaukee. And some jawing yesterday in that Blue Jays-Brewers game. Brewers reliever Trevor McGill and the Jays dugout, namely skipper John Schneider. So what happened here, and McGill's really been struggling this year. He's lost his closer's job. He was rubbing the baseball on the top of his right pant leg. He claims that the Blue Jays immediately started yelling F-bombs at him from the dugout, suggesting a foreign substance on the uniform that he was transferring to the ball. McGill punches out the side and then starts barking at the Blue Jays dugout. Vladdy Guerrero is the on-deck hitter. He exchanges words with the Milwaukee reliever. Schneider said he cussed back at them, but he downplayed it as just, a heat of the moment, emotion of the game incident. They're moving on. They're moving on to Arizona, and they're moving on with a 7-11 record. It was not a particularly difficult schedule for the Blue Jays here in April, and they are sagging. Mariners are 2. They're back down to 8-12. They open a 6-game homestand this weekend tonight versus the American League West. Couple of division rivals coming in, starting with Texas and then the Athletics. A crazy game down in Spokane, which ends in an improbable Vancouver Canadians victory.
The C's are salvaging our baseball story here right now. The last couple of games, Grand Slam happy.
Carter Cunningham, the reigning Northwest League Player of the Week, is having himself another week. I mean, he may repeat. A 2-run shot in the 9th inning ties the game. And then Tucker Toman with a grand slam in the 10th inning. That is Vancouver's 3rd grand slam in the last 2 games. Cunningham hit one on Wednesday. C's win. And here's Toman for those of you on visual platforms. Opposite shot, too. And Blue Jays fans know the name Tucker Toman because he was taken right before the Red Sox drafted Roman Anthony, who was turned into the top prospect in baseball last year and now a starter for them in the outfield. Anyways.
It's a good-looking park there in Spokane, by the way.
With all the hitting heroics, let's not let the outstanding pitching performance of Daniel Guerra go unmentioned. Right-hander throws 5 no-hit innings, racks up 11 strikeouts, 2 walks. He leaves the game up 3 in line for the win. Sadly, the bullpen couldn't hold it.
That's
but
like,
Vancouver,
again, the Blue Jay parallels are perfect there. Like, how many times have we been talking about that for the Jays this season? 5 good innings from the starter, bullpen can't hold it.
C's crawling back to respectability here at 4-8 on the season. They're in Spokane all weekend. Home Tuesday for a Nat Bailey Stadium 75th anniversary pin giveaway, and that begins a 6-game set versus Tri-City. Get your tickets, 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. Lions strengthen their secondary. They sign a CFL veteran, C.J. Colden. He started 17 games at cornerback in 2025 for the Ottawa Redblacks, made 55 tackles, 3 picks, 1 forced fumble. Good to see some CFL experience in that secondary because it does look like one of the areas where, it was clearly one of the areas they needed to improve in the offseason. Results of yesterday's daily poll question. We asked you, who is appearing in their last game with the Canucks? Adam Foote, Elias Pettersson, neither or both? The winner here? Close vote.
Adam Foote.
Close vote. Both. Both got 41% of the vote. Foote got 40. Neither got 10. And Elias got 9. Craft beer guy, please be EP40. Can't change the culture until that guy is gone. Mastard says, hoping for the best with PD wherever he is in the future. And yeah, based on the news this week from his better half, we echo that. And we saw a lot of, hopefully, both. Well, not Adam Foote today, at the very least.
But if you add up Adam Foote votes to both votes, which includes him, I mean, everybody thinks that Adam Foote is gone. Everybody.
80%.
So, if he's not gone,
yep.
What's the reaction going to be? My goodness.
Errors and omissions from yesterday's program and beyond. Sebastian Berhalter joined the Caps 4 years ago. We were wondering, was it 4? Was it 5? 4 years ago, and really emerged as a star for the Caps and MLS. He was an all-star.
This is his 5th season.
That's
though, with
correct.
the Canucks, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
With the
With
Caps.
Caps.
Yeah.
Wrong team.
So right. Caps, Canadians, Canucks. Lots of
In the middle of the broadcast last week, I was talking about the soccer gods.
No, you didn't.
But I said
Soccer
soccer gods.
Attaboy.
But I got Hawk out
I'm
first.
sure nobody noticed. He was doing the Hawk dance.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. Live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And get a load of this guy this week. He's got the Caps game tonight. You got the Sounders game tomorrow. He'll be all over Apple TV.
TFC on Wednesday. 3 games, 3 different cities in 5 days.
Blake Price will be the most viewed, most listened to personality on Apple television over the next 5 days. So check him out. And of course, please do support the community.
The Canucks might be playing in all 3 of those games. That's what my brain might be so mushy at that point that the Canucks might show up in all 3 of those matches. Let's hope not, though.
The hockey gods were good to TFC today. They get a fortunate red card and convert the free kick to take a 1-0 lead over, who are they playing?
TFC?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
He doesn't even know.
Philly.
Over the Flyers.
Yeah, exactly.
And keep it local.